There is a district in the USA that attracts more visitors than Orlando and LA combined. Over 140 million, to be precise. For me, it is the most exciting district in America, and the numbers prove me right because the most visited attractions for city trips are located exactly here. To be more specific, I looked at the 50 largest ones, and almost a third fall into a single city, New York City, and more precisely, Manhattan. Hello everyone, this is Stefan from Love New York again, and I have been to the USA almost 30 times myself, and Manhattan is and remains my absolute favorite district. That is exactly why I am showing you the neighborhoods that are really worth it, the attractions that are worth your money, and the tours that I can recommend to you with a clear conscience. And I will also tell you quite honestly what you can save yourself from. With that in mind, let's get started. What exactly is Manhattan? Manhattan is just one of 5 boroughs that New York City has to offer. It's an island surrounded by the Hudson River and the East River. It's almost 20 kilometers long and 4 kilometers wide at its widest point, so not really that much. In total, there are over 20 bridges that lead from Manhattan towards Queens, New Jersey, and Brooklyn. Why is Manhattan so important? Over 90% of all the attractions for which the city is so world famous are located on this very small spot and not spread out across all the other boroughs, but right here in Manhattan. Manhattan itself, for orientation, is very easy to explore. You really can't get lost. You have streets that run from right to left, that is from east to west. You have avenues that run from top to bottom, that is from north to south. And then there is one street that winds its way right across, that is Broadway. A rough breakdown of Manhattan. Everything, when you hear downtown, everything that is, so to speak, south of 14th Street is called downtown. Everything that is uptown begins at the bottom edge of Central Park and goes upwards, and everything in between is called Midtown. One more thing, Fifth Avenue divides Manhattan into east and west. That's for the addresses. So whenever you have an east or a west in the address, you know whether you are to the right or to the left of Fifth Avenue. Which neighborhoods in Manhattan should you have on your list? I'll tell you right here. Let's start down in downtown. First and foremost, Soho belongs on the list. I love Soho. Even after almost 30 visits, Soho doesn't get boring. Who is it suitable for? If you're looking for great brunch spots, if you're looking for nice breakfast spots, if you want to experience that wonderful, totally iconic, yes, cast iron architecture, you can also shop wonderfully. Greenwich Village and the West Village also couldn't be missing from my list here. It's a super charming neighborhood. There are hardly any major attractions. It's basically a residential neighborhood. It's served as the backdrop for Friends, so it will definitely look familiar to you. Or also from Sex and the City. You can also have a wonderful time here. Of course, the financial district cannot be missing. So that is the neighborhood right at the southern tip of downtown Manhattan. First and foremost, of course, you have Ground Zero with the 9/11 Memorial and the One World Observatory there. You have Wall Street there. From there, the ferries depart towards Governor's Island, Staten Island, and towards the Statue of Liberty. As you can see, this neighborhood really has a lot to offer. Midtown Manhattan always causes confusion because it describes this huge section from roughly 14th Street up to Central Park. Within Midtown Manhattan, there are several neighborhoods again. Which part do I mean specifically? Everything around Rockefeller Center, yes. It's really worth it. Very well known, especially in the evening. During the day, I find it a bit annoying with all the guys running around trying to sell you things. Theater district around Times Square. In the evening, it's totally beautiful, and I still find it beautiful now. I was just asked recently if I still go there in the evenings. Yes, I still go there in the evenings, yes. So, the theater district should definitely be included. Then we'll head further west. There, the Hudson Yards are worth mentioning, along with the High Line, Chelsea with the Chelsea Art District, and yes, if you're more of a foodie, the Chelsea Market. That's also a neighborhood that is very, very special and worth visiting. And of course, the Meatpacking District. You will be surprised at how small it is, but the Meatpacking District is also worth a visit. Now let's move on to Uptown. That can be summarized relatively quickly. Yes, that is the area to the right, left, and north of Central Park. That's the Upper West Side, that's the Upper East Side. The Upper East Side in particular is known for its many museums. There's also the Museum Mile, where you have the Met, you have the Guggenheim, the Frick Collection, so a huge selection of world-famous museums. And way up north is Harlem, and I can especially recommend East Harlem to you. So the eastern part of Harlem is totally safe, and if you're a fan of gospel, you'll definitely end up heading in that direction. For all these neighborhoods that I've mentioned here, you can find walking tours by me where you'll get much better impressions, lasting about 3/4 of an hour, sometimes even an hour and a half, of whether this neighborhood is right for you or not. Because there are so many, I've put them all in the description below for you. And as you start putting your Manhattan building blocks together, I recommend that you always pick 2 or 3 of these neighborhoods that are close to each other because the distances can be quite large, even though Manhattan isn't actually that wide. You can still spend a relatively large amount of time getting from A to B. Now let's get to what you really must see and what you probably don't need to. Number 1, Central Park. I already mentioned it, it's always worth it. It's free, and you can easily combine it with the Upper West Side or the Upper East Side. You can easily spend 4 or 5 hours there, and you know how it is if you've been following the channel for a while. Visit the rocks at the southeast corner of Central Park. You get a wonderful view of Billionaires Row there, and even if you've been there quite often, like I have, it just never gets boring. The next highlight is Grand Central Terminal, also free of charge. It's wonderful if you're at Bryant Park or if you're checking out Summit 1 Vanderbilt. Go inside, it's a huge hall, it's really worth it. The Statue of Liberty is on many people's itinerary. My money-saving tip for this, take the free Staten Island ferry. It sails right past it and you get almost the same view as if you were taking the Liberty cruises to the island. Once again, visiting the Statue of Liberty didn't really do much for me, yeah. I mean, I think the Statue of Liberty is really beautiful, but I don't need to stand on the island because then you're just looking straight up and you don't get a really great impression of the Statue of Liberty at all. Nonetheless, if you're into that, don't let anyone talk you out of it and put the Statue of Liberty on your list. Bryant Park is a must, Fifth Avenue is a must, and a walk along the High Line. These are all free things that I have in mind here. So you see, New York doesn't necessarily have to be expensive to have a really good time. What else can you do in New York that's great? Visit the observation decks. You have a huge selection there. The Empire State Building is the classic, totally iconic, but what I always found a bit annoying is that you don't have it in the skyline when you're up there. Top of the Rock has a great view of the Empire State Building and Central Park. You also have the Edge at Hudson Yards. That's the highest outdoor deck that New York has to offer, and you know you have glass panels that are tilted outwards. That means you can look down and they've built the glass surface into the floor. Now in the summer, the Edge is going to get an upgrade. They are going in the direction of Summit 1 Vanderbilt. They also want to create more entertainment inside. So it's worth it, even if you've been there before, to see the new, Edge. The One World Observatory, of course, shouldn't be missed. Also, a beautiful platform from which you can get a nice view of the New York Harbor. You can see the Statue of Liberty. You have a great 360-degree view of the whole city. And last, but definitely not least, the Summit is my favorite observation deck with a fantastic view of, Central Park. You have the Empire State Building very, very close by. What has also been newly added is the One Times Square observation deck. It's at Times Square. Tickets are only available online, so definitely buy them in advance. I'll put the link below and also in the QR code. And that might be interesting for everyone who is a bit afraid of heights because it's not insanely high. So if you want to see New York from above like this and don't want to be quite so high up, this observation deck is a really nice option for you. By the way, 4 of these observation decks are included in the New York sightseeing passes. That is still my ultimate money-saving tip. I still use them even after nearly 30 visits. I have a section later on that's just about money-saving tips, and they are included there as well. If you're wondering now what great tours you can take that will give you a good impression, then I have to say the hop-on, hop-off bus tours. In other cities like London, for example, I didn't think they were that great, but in New York, I've only had good experiences so far. It's great for orientation. There's an uptown loop, there's a downtown loop. If you want to choose one of the two, take the downtown loop as you'll drive past the most important highlights of New York. And then you should definitely take a boat tour. If you've been following the channel for a while, you know that I love boat tours. I've tested a lot of boat tours. You can also find a lot of detailed videos here, and it's ideal for first-time visitors, but also for second, third, and fourth-time visitors. If you're a budget traveler, then check out the boat tour from Circle Line. They have several, because they are also included in the New York passes. If I may recommend one of them to you, it's the evening boat tour. It lasts about an hour and a half. Super beautiful. Another great boat tour that I'd like to recommend to you is the architecture boat tour, which lasts 2.5 hours and goes completely around Manhattan, or one of the sailing tours to the Statue of Liberty. The one at sunset is especially amazing. But there are also ones with live jazz on board. For all the info on that, because there would be way too many links, just scan the QR code. I've put everything together or linked it down below in the description. If you want the icing on the cake, then take a look at the helicopter flights over New York. It's really worth it, and I recommend the helicopter flights, the medium length ones, which are about 15, 16, 17 minutes long. It's beautiful. They take off from the downtown Manhattan heliport, and within that short time, goosebumps are guaranteed. So I don't want to give away any more than that. So now you already know which attractions there are, including the free ones, and which tours are really nice. And now let's take a look at what the best way to get around Manhattan is. Walking is my number one favorite option, and you'll be surprised at how much you walk in Manhattan. A lot of it is compact. There is so much to see. There are so many attractions that it just never gets boring. Actually, around every street corner, there is something worth seeing. If you have longer distances to cover, then I recommend the subway. Since this year, a single ride costs $3. After just 12 rides within a week, your budget is capped because it costs a maximum of $35 a week. Those are the unlimited rides. That means you can definitely plan with a budget of $35 a week. It won't get any more expensive than that. And you pay using the digital version, which is called Omni, the Metro New York system. Unfortunately, the MetroCard is no longer available. It's completely contactless, and it works super, super easily. Just hold your credit card or phone up to the readers, and you can get on the subway. Also very important, as a backup, always have a free credit card with you or just a second credit card in general, because if for some reason your credit card gets blocked and you only have one, well, it's always a bit annoying. So pack a second credit card, in your wallet. What else can I recommend? The NYC ferry, which I mentioned earlier, that is, so to speak, the official ferry of New York. There are various routes and they commute between Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens. Super cheap, a ride costs $4.50, absolutely fantastic. And what I also like is riding a bike through the city. You can do that nowadays, it's relatively safe. There are a lot of bike paths. You can ride through Central Park, you can ride along the Hudson River Greenway, but you can also just ride through the city normally. So it works very, very easily and conveniently via the free City Bike app. Yeah, what about a taxi or a yellow cab or Uber? We really only use that very rarely. So if the weather doesn't cooperate or we need to get somewhere quickly that's a bit further away, then that's a great option. If you really want to ride in a yellow cab, feel free to do so. However, I always recommend Uber. The cars are clean and it's cheaper because they aren't driven through the city in 3-shift operations like is usually the case with yellow cabs. A quick note on that: for all these activities, you need an eSIM, yes. You know, I'm a big fan of Holafly. This video is not sponsored by Holafly. I'm a fan of theirs. If you use this QR code that I'll show you in a moment, you'll get an extra 5% discount. As I said, you don't have to worry about anything then, because they are all unlimited plans and you can just use your phone now, just like you do at home. Now let's get to the part about where you should best stay overnight. I get a lot of questions about that, and there are actually many correct answers to it, if I'm being honest. What is the advantage of having your hotel in Midtown? It's super central, it's convenient for your first trip. I have to be honest with you. To this day, I like being in Manhattan, even partly in Midtown, because I just like waking up in the city and already being right in the middle of it without long transfers. What is the disadvantage? It is then, of course, a little bit more expensive. Which hotels can I specifically recommend to you at Times Square? The Marriott Marquis really surprised me. That is a really, really great hotel, also for families. Why? They also have large rooms with 2 double beds. That's a great money-saving tip for families. I can also recommend the M Social to you, and as I said, you can find even more hotels that I have personally tested at Times Square in the video below, but those 2 have really, yes, grown on me. I like them a lot. The financial district, so in downtown, is often quieter and offers great value for money, especially on the weekends, because that's when the business travelers aren't around. I'm a fan of the Cloud M. It's basically the offshoot of the German Motel 1, a design chain that also shows you that chic design doesn't have to be expensive. What mistakes should you avoid when choosing a hotel? A super cheap hotel that is far out, yes. Because you'll end up spending a lot of time on the subway, and especially if you don't have too many days in New York, I think that's, an option I wouldn't choose very often, because then I'd rather pay a little bit more but be right in the middle of the city. One more tip on that, scan the QR code. I have a hotel finder with the best hotels in New York with my personal recommendations. You can enter a few things there, what you're interested in, and I'll recommend a handful of hotels for you. If you say there are just too many hotels and you only need a selection of them, then take a look at my Love New York Hotel Finder. Oh yeah, I forgot one thing. Would I book a hotel with breakfast? I actually never do that. Well, first of all, it's because I like to go to diners and just mingle with the New Yorkers. But if I've eaten something late in the evening, for example, sometimes I'm not even hungry in the morning, and then I just skip it, and then I would have paid for breakfast that I didn't use. But it is an option, especially if you are traveling with hungry teenagers. If you have teenagers as kids too, you know what I mean. In that case, it can really be an option. Otherwise, I would always book the hotel without breakfast. Now, I'm keeping my promise from the beginning of the video on how you can save money in Manhattan without making your trip any worse. Tip number one for hotels, always book with a refundable rate because that's what I often do too. If there are price drops, you can simply rebook, cancel the other one, and just like that, you have the same hotel or the same hotel category where there's currently a deal, and you get the same experience, but have simply spent less on it. As for the passes here too, they are almost always worth it if you want to visit several attractions. So sightseeing passes are worth it starting from just 3 attractions. You can easily calculate that for yourself. I have a savings calculator for that where you simply enter what you want to see and it calculates for you whether it's worth it or not. And along with that, I also have a comparison if you want to get a quick overview of which options are currently available. Then I've built a brand new deal finder. You can also find that on my site, on the homepage, and there you'll find the best individual tickets currently available with a discount. Yes, it's updated daily, so if you want to book something spontaneously, feel free to take a look there. For the sake of transparency, these are all affiliate links. That means if you book through it, you support my work, I receive a small commission, and the good thing for you is that the price stays exactly the same. So it doesn't get more expensive, it stays exactly the same, and by using these links, including the ones you find in the description, you're simply supporting my work. A big, huge thank you in advance, and let's move on to the money-saving tips. If you want to see Broadway shows, yes, TKTS at Times Square is a great option. That's where the remaining tickets for the day are sold. There's also one at Lincoln Center, where it's usually a bit less crowded. So if you're near Central Park, you can also stop by Lincoln Center. Tickets are sometimes 50% cheaper. You can see that right on the boards outside. It shows which shows are available for the day, and you can save money there. Another option is TodayTix. Download the app for free, and you can also see the remaining tickets for the day there. If you want to eat well and affordably, I recommend the food markets instead of the typical tourist restaurants. The Time Out Market, is a market that I really like. It's in Brooklyn. You have a fantastic view of Dumbo there, and there's also a brand new one at Union Square. Definitely stop by. And another market I think is good is Market 57 at Pier 57. It's really nice. You also have a beautiful view of the Hudson River there. When you're there, you can go for a walk right through the meatpacking walk. You can visit Little Island, walk along the High Line, and so on. So it's really worth stopping by the food markets. If you're asking how else can you eat cheaply, are these food courts an option? They are actually an option. And how do you find out which one is good or not? Google Maps, or you just take a look. If you see that there are a lot of people standing there, then you can be sure that you can eat well and cheaply there. And last but not least, there are also supermarkets in New York, and I stop there regularly too to get my water or just something small in between. It's a great way to save money, and maybe you've already noticed there's even an Aldi in New York now. So if you follow these money-saving tips, you'll easily have saved a few €100 in the end, and you can spend that on some really nice extra things. For example, when shopping. So where should you not shop at first? At Times Square and also around Chinatown or in Chinatown? Yes. I'm not a big fan of that. Expensive and definitely not the best quality you'll get. If you want something nice that you'll enjoy for a longer time, I'm looking to the left right now. No, I don't have my sweater from Chelsea Market lying right here. I like Chelsea Market. For example, you have Artists and Fleas there. They have multiple locations, and it's a great option for picking up things from local artists. From jewelry to clothes to pictures to souvenirs and so on. Wonderful, I like it very, very much. On West Broadway, which borders Soho and also borders the Village, you'll find a whole lot of well-known brands there. It's also much cheaper here than, of course, on Fifth Avenue or even at Times Square. If you want to go window shopping, there's no way around Fifth Avenue. If you're a basketball fan or a baseball fan, or at least think the New York Yankees caps are great, yes, Fifth Avenue is also your go-to spot because that's where the NBA store is, and also the MLB store or the Yankee store where you can pick up great souvenirs originally from New York. And then I wanted to mention the Soho neighborhood again. Here too, there are many smaller shops, including pop-up stores from New York artists and many boutiques. So it's also worth stopping by here. What can you save yourself from? I already said that at the beginning. These are typical tourist traps that are sometimes very convenient, meaning very comfortable. But in the end, yeah, you're just spending too much money on things that simply aren't worth it. Number 1, going to restaurants very close to big, well-known attractions. Especially around Times Square, you'll find many overpriced restaurants that just have mediocre quality. Yes, there are always a few exceptions, but as a rule of thumb, I would suggest you always go a bit further away from the top attractions, and you'll usually have a much better selection or a much better price-performance ratio there. Another thing you don't have to do, even though it's nice, is visit all the observation decks. I've also received that question many times. 2 to 3 will give you 90% of all the views, I would say. Which 2 to 3 are those? It's Summit, it's Edge, and it's the One World Observatory. Those are different perspectives, super modern, and those are my top 3. Another thing where I also get information very often is I bought an attractions pass, like a New York pass, and I wanted to play it safe, so I just got a bigger pass. Oh, I would never recommend that to you. In case of doubt, always take the pass, for example, if a savings calculator suggests one or even a size smaller so that you don't get into sightseeing stress, because then you simply won't have the big savings you wanted to have. So I can't recommend that to you either. And the hop-on, hop-off bus tours are great for orientation, but don't plan on them being a means of transport because they naturally drive past the main attractions. They are, of course, on the biggest streets. That means for you, there's a lot going on there too, and that's why one of these rounds takes 2.5 hours, so don't do that. And the yellow cabs are just more expensive. I wouldn't do it, only if it really comes down to it. But if you say, man, I really want to ride in a yellow cab once, then do it. I already mentioned the topic of the Statue of Liberty. I'm not a big fan, or rather, I don't see much added value in being right on it, but don't let anyone talk you out of it. If it's on your list, definitely visit it. Thank you very much for watching. See you in one of the next 2 videos. Bye, your Stefan from Love in New York.